Hi, welcome back to the Antique Trader. And my name is Sharon, and we're taping out of Northwest Military in San Antonio, Texas at the Craftiques Mall. And we're here today with Tammy Martinez, and she's going to be talking about tea. And she happens to be the manager of the Tea Lounge here at the Craftiques Mall. Hi, Tammy. How are you today?
Good.
Tell me a little bit about your background.
Well, before I became a manager at the Tea Lounge, I started out in provider relations with an insurance company, big insurance company for the federal government. So I traveled a lot, and after that, I became a stay-at-home mom. So I retired from that, became a stay-at-home mom, and
retired from that one too.
From that one,
okay.
And so here we go again.
So, how did you get involved with the Tea Lounge and teas? And nobody would believe that teas actually have a history.
Oh, tea has a huge history. Well, actually, I drank a lot of tea from the tea bag, so that was pretty much my extent, my knowledge on tea, and I really liked it. It was
supermarket tea.
Supermarket tea, and so from that point, Liz, who is the owner of Craftiques, asked me if I would like to come and help out in the Tea Lounge, because I'm a stay-at-home mom. I don't have anything else to do. And I'm like, sure, I'll come and help out. And so I came, and I started out as a tea tender, just making tea for customers. And from that point, I began to fall in love with tea. Customers would ask me questions about tea, and I realized there was a lot that I didn't know about tea. So I started studying books, internet, doing little classes here and there, and I just fell in love with everything about tea, and especially the healthy benefits of tea. So, and here I am. So now I teach tea classes, I go to tea expos, and I'm heavily involved in tea.
So now let's get into the history of teas. Where did all this history of tea come from?
All right. The origin of tea stems from China. And it goes back as far as 2737 BC. That is the recorded date.
That is impressive. Okay.
So, I mean, you're gonna, if a person were to start researching the history of tea, it is a legend about how tea even came about. So you're going to get, just the way legends go, you're going to get so many different stories, so many different types of variations of the legend. So I'll just give you the one that I like the best.
Okay, I have a question right there. Which came first, tea or coffee?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I really don't.
Now that's interesting.
That is
we
interesting.
have to get somebody that knows about coffee.
Right. See, I'm a tea person, so I don't really know. And I used to drink coffee, but I mean, I don't drink coffee anymore.
Okay, so let's say if I wanted to learn more about tea, I know I'm a tea toddler too, and so is my whole family because we're European. But how do you go about finding these teas, and how do you have tea tasting like you do wine tasting and that type of thing?
Exactly.
And how do you know what teas to buy and what teas not to buy?
Okay. Well, again, teas, it's a matter of preference. There are six truly different teas. You've got a green tea, white tea, black tea, you've got chai, you've got pu'er, you've got a yellow tea. So it really depends, and oolongs, sorry. So it really depends on your taste. And so many different teas have so many healthy benefits. Some teas are high in, in antioxidants, and then some teas are high in tannins, which are, it's good for your blood pressure and your blood circulation. So it depends on really what you, really what you want to incorporate into your lifestyle, health-wise. But again, taste, it is about taste. And there's so many different teas, so there's so many different, taste profiles for you. And, there are some people that, they only want to drink green tea. And there are some people that just love black tea and wouldn't drink, green tea. And then let me say this too about about our culture, tea is really becoming a new culture here in the United States. And the neat thing about the United States and tea is that we experience all the different kinds of tea, whereas in other countries like in China where tea originated, they've probably not had let's say black tea. They're green tea drinkers. So a lot of them do not drink black tea. And the same thing with other countries, like in Russia, they have a specific tea. They drink the Assams or the black teas, and they may not venture out into other teas. So culturally, they're drinking one certain kind of tea. In America, we're trying them all.
Now, the black teas. You have a cup of black tea, and aren't you marching around like a little soldier because it has a lot of caffeine?
Exactly, has a lot of caffeine. Yeah.
Because I've experienced black tea, and it's like, oh.
Well, you know what? The neat thing about tea, and I'm not sure if you've experienced this or not, but the caffeine that's in tea is different from the caffeine that is in coffee. With tea, you don't have, it's just the structure of the tea, of the properties that are in the tea. It's let's say an easy resting period. So you don't crash. It kind of just slowly goes out of your system.
So what makes the caffeine in the black tea have your heart rev up like if you had tons of caffeine?
Well, I mean, it is just that. I mean, well, like the black tea. So like you're saying, it has a lot of caffeine versus your green tea. But it actually is just the properties that are in that tea. So I mean, that's a scientific thing. So I don't really know, and it's different for other people. For a lot of people, black tea for me, it doesn't rev me up. It relaxes me. So it does the opposite with me than it was with other people.
Well, you're always on the go anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, tell us about the class that you teach, in particularly about tea.
I do talk to them about the origin of tea and where it originated, and I think that that's important because it has brought so much, just to the whole world. We're talking about like the history of tea and how it has a long history. I mean, the Boston Tea Party, 1773. So, I mean, that all stemmed around, I mean, it was about taxation and high taxes for this tea, so of course they dumped all that tea in there.
We're smuggling tea here.
Oh, the smuggling, exactly. And so, I mean, so tea has a lot, I mean, tea is even involved in the opium wars, in China. So it's been used as currency, in trade. So the classes, so I do teach the classes, and I try and put some history in there so that they can understand, tea, I mean, there was a lot that went into this drink that we take for granted, and,
What do you say, we're here in Texas, and I know there's a lot of the Indian culture. What type of tea do they favor? And what type of tea comes from their historical background?
And you're talking about American Indians?
Yes.
Very, very, they're basically herbs, not necessarily the tea leaves like we drink, and there's a difference, and people don't understand that. Teas came from one plant called the Camellia sinensis. So it's a plant. A lot of people will drink like herbs like chamomile and lavender, and so what they would do is they mix a lot of sage and all these herbs and brew those. I mean, even bark. There's like a particular kind of bark off a tree that they would brew. Okay, so not necessarily tea from the tea leaf, but more herbal, earthy things.
That's very, very interesting. Now, what else could you tell us about your class? Is there different types of pots that are preferable for brewing certain types of teas?
Yes, very much
or
so.
the little cups, do they give a different taste to your tea?
Yes.
Depending on the pot that you brew it in and whatnot?
Yes. So, again, going back to the history of tea, in China, they have a style called Gongfu style. And actually, what they use is a yixing pot, which is what this is. It's a clay pot, and it's yixing, Yixing. And I love the Asian language because it's very phonetic. You know, it's pronounced the way you say it, or the way you read it. But this is a yixing pot, okay? And so a lot of tea is made in this particular pot for the black teas. Okay, and like you said, as far as taste goes, it does make a difference when you're drinking kind of an earthy tea out of this pot.
It's just like if you've noticed that if you're drinking a glass of water from a plastic glass,
exactly,
and you could taste the difference.
Yes.
It tastes like real water if you put it in a crystal glass.
Yes, exactly. Yes, and the same thing, you know, with the different vessels, even like the vessels that you make the tea in.
So this is a very small teapot.
It
is
is.
that actually used
Yes.
for 2 servings?
Oh yes, definitely. Yes.
That actually has 2 servings.
Yes,
for tea.
yes.
Okay.
And we would drink it out of these little bowls.
And what is that made out of?
It's clay.
It looks like cast iron.
It is, and it's clay. And the thing about this is, so historically, you would typically, whatever tea that you're going to drink, like let's say I'm going to have a Wu Yi oolong, this is all I would make in this pot. Because you know how clay picks up the different tastes of whatever you use. And of course, you'd never use soap in it. You just rinse it out with hot water. So I have several, and I marry my tea to my pot. So whatever tea I'm using for that pot, that's all that goes into that pot. There are some pots that are 1,000 years old, and basically all you have to do is pour water in it, the hot water in it, and it's supposedly, I haven't had it.
You can get your own tea from the pot.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? So yeah, definitely, and so China, it gets to China. I'm sorry, it gets to Japan a little later. It's supposedly a Japanese monk went to China, took some tea seeds back. Yeah.
Let's hold it right there.
Okay.
Okay. When we come back, we will continue with the history of teas. We'll be right back. We're back here with Tammy Martinez from the Garden Tea Lounge in San Antonio, Texas. And her little place is located at the Craftiques Mall. Well, Tammy, okay, sorry I had to cut you off, but we had to go down that break. Tell us about the next thing that you were going to talk about, that little bowl there.
Yes. And it's actually called a chaiwan. And it just basically means bowl in Japanese. And so they liked to make this tea called matcha, which is a powder. And it was an imperial tea that they used during tea ceremonies. And then they would use this to whisk it up. And actually, I do one of these every morning. I have a bowl of matcha.
So does my daughter.
Oh, okay, good.
So she knows
very
what that
healthy,
is, yeah.
yes. Very, very, very energetic. It's good for your cognizance and the clearing of the mind. So that's a really good thing to have in the
I've
morning.
never tasted it. What does it taste like?
Very vegetal. So think about drinking a bowl of greens. I mean, that's probably the best way I can describe it. But it's very vegetal. When you start developing a tea taste and you get away from the sugars and things like that, and you let your taste buds start tasting things, you can taste the sweetness in the
In the
teas.
matcha.
Yeah, and it does have a very nice sweetness to it. But this is what they would drink their tea out of, this little neat vessel. This is called a chashaku, and so this is used to stir it up, whip it up.
That's very interesting.
I'm sorry,
So we
I
were
said
going
that
to
wrong.
talk-
It's not a chachaku. Somebody might go look it up. It's a chasin. Okay, that makes a difference.
Well, we don't want to mislead them.
Yeah.
You told me you were going to tell me a little bit about iced tea.
Yes, yes. So the gentleman by the name of Richard Lechnyard, I'm probably butchering his name, but in 1904, during the it was a World Fair in St. Louis, he wanted to have a drinks for the people there, and it was hot, and so he's thinking nobody's going to drink hot tea. I mean, on a hot day, so he iced it, and so that's how iced tea became popular, because of the World's Fair.
That's interesting. That 1904 World's Fair has a lot of little things
Yeah.
that everybody touches upon.
Yeah, yes.
Because it seems like every person I speak to, it
Mentions that.
started at the World's Fair in 1904.
Yeah.
So 1904, every time I say 1904, the World's Fair,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so tell us about that other little vessel that you have over there, the one with the little stick.
Well, you know what? So in Argentina, tea leaves grow they don't grow everywhere. Okay, so where they don't grow, people steep other things. And I just thought I just really brought this out because it's neat looking. And so in Argentina, they drink their tea called yerba mate. Have you ever heard of mate?
No.
Okay, and it also has what's called matin, which is like caffeine. It is an energizer. Okay, they actually have Coke in theirs in Argentina. We don't sell that brand here.
I'm sure we don't.
But yeah, so what the villagers
So
would
it's
do,
actually legal in Argentina?
it's a herb.
Okay.
But they would fill this up with this tea, and so you'll see them today even walking around this, town with their gourd, and this is called a bombilla, and it's a strained straw. It's a straw with a strainer on it, and the tea is in there, and you just they would just all come together to come to work, and they'd have their big kettles of water or hot water, and and the neat thing about this is that you just continue to pour water in it. You drink all your tea out
So
of it.
this is actually a gourd.
gourd. It is a gourd. Yeah.
Okay. Very, very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a real gourd. You can see on the inside. You can see all the pulp.
Yeah, so they sip it
Yeah.
through the,
Straw. The bombilla.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is an energizer. It really is.
Well,
Just
I'm sure.
all the herbs and nutrients. Like I said, we don't, we have the
and
we,
then
we have the
sipping it
safe
through the
version.
straw add more oxygen.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I just brought that up because I thought that was pretty neat.
Well, that was very interesting. Definitely.
But I do want to show you this because this is very neat piece. Do you
Let's
have
check it
any
out.
idea what that is?
No, what is it? It's heavy though.
It's tea.
Are you serious?
It's a tea tile.
This is actually tea?
It is actually tea.
So if I were to scrape it or
There's actually a little tool that you would use to chisel off a piece of that, and it's tea. It's called puer.
next question. How much tea can we get out of this?
Oh, that's a lot of tea. That's a lot of it's a lot. Because with puer, you only need like about 2 ounces, so you'd be drinking tea for years.
Oh, so where did you get this?
Well, it was donated to the Tea Lounge from one of the customers, and we can't remember, who it was, but he just thought it was neat, nice to have at the Tea Lounge.
Have you ever tried to taste it?
No. We want to preserve it like that, but just look at the detail. I don't know if your guests can see the details, and look on the back of it, and that is it's probably their emblem
It was like they probably pressed it into a waffle iron. Type
They
of
have
thing.
yeah, they do have a press, and like whatever, like a Empire or whatever.
I'm
you know.
smelling it. I'm trying to get something to see. Do you smell any difference in it? Could you smell anything?
Not really, not now. You know, because it's just, and you know what? Actually, pu'ers are aged tea, and they're meant to last, you know, forever. You know, it's like a fine wine. The older that tea is, it's called post-fermented. The older that tea is, the better it is. I was in Carmel, and we went to a little tea shop there. They had a pot of aged pu'er. I think they said it was like 200 years old or something like that. $425 a pot for a pot of tea.
So can you imagine? This is like quite heavy.
Yeah, it would be that would be a very expensive piece.
How many pounds would you say? Is this about close to 3-4 pounds?
Maybe about 2 or 3. Yeah, you're right. It
feels it's close, like in the 4 range,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it feels like when you package of sugar.
Yeah. And the thing and the reason that they did that is because it was easier to transport. Okay, and that's how Russia, which is going to bring me to this vessel here. Russia would get their tea from China, and they would press it. You know, and so it was easy for them to transport.
Well, they could transport and nobody would know it's tea.
In some places,
It's
it was
just
used
a
for
piece
currency.
of artwork that you could trade or do anything
And that's
with.
exactly what they did. They did use tea for trade, so it was almost like a currency.
I wonder if we can probably look up a date and find out. But this must go way, way
It does,
back.
yeah.
This is
it's a very
very
old piece.
vintage
Yeah.
art piece.
Yeah, yeah,
For trading tea.
yeah.
Okay, well that's very, very interesting. Now, let's do this goodie
Right.
here.
And so, like, you know, each country has its way they drink tea. And Russia, you know, it was what did they drink? Ale? I don't know what. Anyway, beside that drink, the beer, the ale.
I spoke to somebody, and I told her, says, I'm doing a program on tea. Says, oh, but tea? Who's going to go to the grocery store and just get tea? I know, says, tea actually has a history.
Yes.
And it does, and it seems unbelievable.
Yep.
And I have a tea box here that I'm going to show at the end to see what the tea boxes look. But there's
Right.
a lot of tea boxes, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of tea box collectors.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Okay.
Tell us about this.
But it's called a samovar. That is the name of it. And so this is really neat because what do you think they put in there?
Tea?
Coal. That doesn't come out. But
Okay.
that's how they
They can't see.
heat
Can
it
I
up.
pick this up?
Sure. That's very heavy.
Okay, so
It is heavy.
let's get the muscles going. Oh. Okay, so let's see how we could turn this as long as I don't drop it. Okay, so now coal goes in here.
Hot coals go in there, and it heats up the water in the pot. And then the little spigot right there, and that's how they steep their tea.
And this is from Russia?
Russia. And it's called a samovar.
That's very interesting.
It is.
It's beautiful.
Yep.
Okay, now that I've gotten my exercise for the day. Okay, and you have, what do you have up there?
And this right here, I just brought this because it's just cute. It's a Moroccan style teapot, so the Moroccans have their way of drinking tea. And you know, so we, you know, in Asian culture, they use things like this to drink out of. The Moroccans use something like this to drink out of. So they have like the glasses.
Hot tea
Hot tea.
from glass?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I actually went to a Moroccan restaurant, me and my husband and I ordered some Moroccan mint, and this is how I got it served to me.
So, my next question is, Moroccan mint tea, is it an espresso concentrated type of
No.
tea to be in the small little teapot?
No. Because loose leaf teas are so full-bodied, they have an incredible amount of flavor. because they're not like the tea that you would get in a tea bag. Sometimes they're getting better with tea and tea bags now, but it used to be like powder, like grains. But those full leaves just produces such a massive, like something like this one, all you would put would be 2 teaspoons of tea leaves in there.
And
That's
you'd
it.
be able to get 2 servings.
Oh yes. Oh, definitely. Oh yeah, about 3. Well, 'cause you don't really fill it all the way up to the top. So, yeah. And this is. It doesn't look like it, but it's actually 16 ounces. I think the roundness of it is just deceiving. It's got a little depth and it's
very
wide.
deceiving.
Yeah, but that is 16 ounces. It is.
Wow. You would never think
Yeah.
it's 16 ounces.
So get about three glasses of it.
And now, last but not least,
Yeah, so
The
of course,
English pot.
right. So, the English had their time with tea, and actually the influence for the English teapots, they did get their influence from Chinese and Japanese style teapots. So that is the influence. However, they didn't really start. Well, they couldn't really get a hold of porcelain. So you'll notice that they have a lot of silver tea service. But so they started about 1700s, getting their tea pots.
Okay. Well, Tammy, I'd like to thank you so much for being on the
I have so
program.
much more to talk about.
Half a minute more. Let's get it into half a minute more.
Okay,
then.
real quickly. So today, it's so easy for us to have tea right now. We just try to make it so easy that you got your tea strainer, you put it in there, you put your tea in there, you put your water in there, you steep it, it's done, you take this out and it's ready to drink.
That's great. Well, we'd like to thank you so much. It was so much fun, and you were such a wonderful guest.
Great, thank you.
And like I said, everything's a collectible in the way that what your passion drives you to collect and keep collecting, and history is in the heart of the collector. Thanks for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed this program, and I'll see you on the next Antique Trader. Hi, and welcome to another episode